Frances Ha, directed by Noah Baumbach, written by himself and Greta Gerwig, who also stars in the film in the titular role. It's a black and white indie film, which I would honestly describe as a coming of age story, only it's shifted in time compared to other similar stories. Most coming of age movies are about teenagers making their first reluctant steps into adulthood. The protagonist of this one, Frances, is 27, and yet I'd argue she's still very much in the process of growing up and figuring out her life. We watch her through a series of vignettes as she's trying to hold things together in New York and other places as well. As we meet her, she's just broken up with her boyfriend. She lives with her best friend Sophie, who very shortly after decides to move out elsewhere. So their otherwise beautiful friendship suddenly hits some snags. Frances tries to find another place to live, all the while trouble at work also begins to hit. She's an inspiring dancer, but the company she works for is clearly not a place she'll make a great career, so she's kind of struggling financially as well. So she kind of drifts, kind of navigates through these little adventures with us as observers. So yeah, I do think this is a story about growing up. And before anyone stops me saying, hey, 27 is well into adulthood already. Well, I'm 28 and I don't really feel like an adult either. I'm still figuring out who I am, and maybe not to the extent that Francis's life is in disarray and chaos, but still, I find it not only believable, all the things she's going through, I find it an incredibly accurate portrayal of today's youth. It also helps that Greta Gerwig is fantastic in the role. I think she becomes Frances. She's at the same time endearing and sweet and loving, but also awkward and indecisive at times. And she feels real. She doesn't look like a Hollywood star, like a made up character. She just feels like a real person. I did enjoy hanging out with her as well as the other characters. In fact, the interesting thing about the film is that the movie doesn't really have any antagonistic characters. Some of the people we meet are good friends of Frances, some of them are just acquaintances, and there are a few that she maybe doesn't like as much, but there is not an enemy here. There are no evil people, and I found this aspect very lifelike as well. I know that movies or stories in general like to pit protagonists in conflict with someone who's their enemy, but life doesn't work like that, and more often than not we're all just regular people who don't hate one another, just living life. And so between this element of the film and Frances being so incredibly likable as a character to be with, and the really great portrayal of her friendships, especially the one with Sophie, and the way that the ending sort of nicely wraps things up and finally shows that Frances is maybe not finished, but on the path to figuring out her life. All of these things made the movie very, very enjoyable for me. Frances Ha, it's available on Netflix, check it out.